the grid is out, everybody's home is out as well. And while my team is driving around looking at the streetlights, people are literally outside, like having a picnic, eating dinner under our streetlights because it's the only source of light in the community.
And that is when a streetlight stops being something that nobody thinks about and becomes a thing a community depends on. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Climate Confident, Stories and Strategies that Cut Emissions, episode 275, and I'm your host, Tom Raftery. My guest today is Liam Ryan, CEO of Streetleaf, a company rethinking one of the least glamorous but surprisingly important pieces of public infrastructure, the streetlight. We talk about why the real cost of streetlights is often the trenching, wiring, maintenance, and slow repair, not the electricity itself, and how solar plus battery lighting can cut emissions while making communities more resilient, especially as extreme weather puts more pressure on grids. So I started by asking Liam how he ended up working on solar streetlights. Liam, welcome to the podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Awesome, Tom. Appreciate you having me. Yeah, my name is Liam Ryan. I'm the CEO of Streetleaf. We're a solar street lighting company based in Tampa, Florida.
And Liam, how did you get into solar street lighting?
So just like everybody, I grew up wanting to think about streetlights every day. So living my dream here in Florida. No, actually, so it's kind of a story of like luck and also just like being in the right place in the right time, which I guess is the same thing as luck. But I was working for a conservation company during COVID, and that all ended with the global pandemic. The company I was working for was tied to ecotourism. So I moved back home to Tampa, where I'm from. And my family actually has a real estate development company, and they're working on a big project even during the pandemic. And the local utility had an issue with streetlights in their project. So they had come up with some solutions, had some consultants help them find what ended up being like some initial solar street lighting. I came in, I was sleeping on their couch. They're like, hey, we think there might be an option here. We're just using it for one project. See if anybody else needs streetlights the way we did. I'm zooming through a lot of the initial drama, but the gist is I went from living in the woods in Southern Africa for a conservation company to talking to HOAs in Florida about solar street lighting in a matter of like 30 days. And it wasn't because I knew what I was talking about. It was just because the people here needed something better for streetlights. And then that's multiplied throughout the state of Florida, but now in the 10 other states that we're delivering products as Streetleaf.
And why solar streetlights?
Streetlights are one of those weird things that, one, nobody ever thinks about, which means technology hasn't really changed there for 50 plus years. But two, the cost of the streetlight is not actually the power to power like the light bulb. It's actually the infrastructure to get the streetlight in place. So that's where a solar and battery powered streetlight makes a lot of sense. So a traditional streetlight, you either are doing overhead wires, or a lot of them these days, you're digging a trench in the earth, running wire, running conduit, and tying it back into the grid, which has a lot of cost, but also takes a lot of time. Whereas a solar and battery powered streetlight, you don't need any of that. You just have a solar panel, a battery, some modern technology included, and you just plop the streetlight right there that day.
And what's the attraction, and to whom? I mean, who are you selling solar streetlights to, and what's the big attraction for them to go for solar streetlights versus traditional streetlights, which, as you mentioned, need to have trenches dug and cables laid and stuff?
So same comment about nobody thinks about streetlights. My follow-up comment or question is really nobody knows who pays for streetlights either. Kind of assume it's the local municipality, or I don't know, maybe my HOA. I don't really know who pays. And it's actually who is ever responsible for controlling that road. A lot of our customers are in new construction and developments. So think like big home building companies, big land development companies that are putting in all this road, all these sewers, all of this infrastructure in new communities. They're also putting in the streetlights. So that's who we're going to. And it's not only, hey, it's a renewable energy product, but it also is saving them time and money as well.
Okay, so explain the product itself, because you mentioned solar, you mentioned battery, you mentioned Streetlife, but tie it together for me. What is it that these lights deliver? What's the product look like and what is it?
Yeah, so the kind of quick origin story I was buzzing through didn't highlight really the key differentiator of Streetleaf. When I moved back to Tampa, this was happening as far as like the solar light, not the solar lighting, the street lighting drama with the local utility and kind of like my family's development. What we didn't highlight is we spoke to a lot of other solar street lighting companies, and they had installed 10 in a park over here, 12 in a parking lot over there, but none of them have an out-of-the-box, easy solution. It was just like a big headache working with them. And two, it was like, hey, that's great, but I'm going to need 1,000 streetlights when there's 2,000-3,000 homeowners living here. And 10 years from now, if there's any issues, I don't want the HOA manager calling me and saying, hey, come fix my streetlights. I need somebody who's going to be responsible for them if I'm going to move away from the local utility. And nobody could really answer those questions sufficiently. That told us we have to do it ourselves. But two, go back to your question of what Streetleaf is. It's a product, but it's also like an installation and like maintenance service. So we're delivering our products, we're installing them for you, and then we're responsible for the long-term maintenance to keep the lights on. So it's turnkey, all-in-one, like easy button, all of those buzzwords, but it's really just making street lighting as easy as possible. So the customer only has to think about it for 1 second, hear our story, see our product, and then not worry about anything else.
And just to clarify, the lights themselves, they are traditional poles with a light solar panel and built-in battery.
Oh, yeah, no, fair enough. I didn't actually describe the product at all. I was just going through the whole spiel. So yeah, it is. So it's a PV on top of a aluminum pole. We're in the Northern Hemisphere, so always facing exactly 180 degrees south. We're using a lithium iron phosphate battery that's integrated into the PV frame currently, and then a separate like aluminum pole arm with an LED light. So the panel is always oriented south. The arm is always oriented exactly over the roadway where it needs to be. And then I know we're talking a little bit more on like the solar and battery aspect of the products, but all of our lights are also what's called dark sky certified, which means they minimize light pollution. All of the lights going down, not up, and causing further light pollution in our skies.
I saw that on your website, yeah. The light coming off them, how much light do they give out? If it's a cloudy day, how long does the battery last? Those kind of things. Tell me all about that as well.
Yeah, so we can talk lumens and foot candles if you really want to dive into that in this podcast. But the way I simplify it at a high level is our customers are in the US, so I'll speak to like the way the US lighting and roadway system is set up. There's basically 4 types of roadways when you're designing them, which means there's 4 types of street lights and the power needed to deliver light safely on them. There's technical names for them: local, collector, arterial, major. I tell my team small, medium, large, extra large. Currently, our products are cost effective and meet all kind of safety requirements on the small and medium applications, which is like 5,500 lumens for a small roadway, a local roadway, 7,500 lumens for a collector road, which is kind of like that medium application. Think like a 2-lane road through your neighborhood.
And battery life, as I say, a couple of cloudy days come by.
All of our systems are designed, depending on the product, to have 3 to 5 days of full battery backup. What that means is, hey, if that panel was not taking in any more insulation, any more sunshine for 3 days, that light would still stay on throughout the night for 3 to 5 days in a row. And we're able to edit our lighting profiles if we need to extend that life cycle, which we do sometimes here in Florida with hurricanes, but that's the settings out of the box.
And seeing as you mentioned hurricanes, how well do they withstand being battered by hurricane winds and rain?
Yeah, so when we first installed our first products over 6 years ago, We got them signed and sealed by a local professional engineer here in Florida. They meet 160 mile per hour wind code. They're compliant. They're going to be stable and just not move, even if there's a big Category 5 storm coming through. 4 years ago, we experienced our first one in Hurricane Ian here in Florida. Obviously, on paper, it works great, but we're obviously very nervous about what it looked like in reality. And I can tell you, of the lights that we had impacted by Ian, we actually had a 5% failure rate. We had an adjustable knuckle bracket on the panel that made installation easier, but actually that was the source of the main failure. We went back and changed the product design a little bit. Then in subsequent hurricanes, Irma. Irma was the first hurricane 4 years ago. Then we had Ian 3 years ago in Florida as well, even bigger storm. Our issue rate dropped to 1.5% of the lights affected during the storm. Then last year, we had 2 hurricanes back to back, Helene and Milton, and our failure rate was below 1%. So short answer is, on paper, we're 100% compliant with anywhere between 160 to 180 miles per hour. Over the years, now we've been battered by a couple storms. We've learned a lot and designed our products to be more and more resilient as we go through these storms.
And if there's an electrical outage as a result of a storm, normal streetlights are going to have an issue, but yours should stay on, right?
So that was something that we had always talked about when we were starting, but it's really during these extreme weather events where we see it come to fruition. So it was actually during the first hurricane, Hurricane Irma, where our lights actually had the highest failure rate, like I just mentioned, 5%. But we had people in our team go out locally, drive through communities, see if there's any damage that we're not reporting on our end, because we're actually tracking all of the lights' performance remotely in our office in Tampa. And what we saw was actually pretty amazing, because not only traditional streetlights are out, but if the grid is out, everybody's home is out as well. And while my team is driving around looking at the streetlights, people are literally outside, having a picnic, eating dinner under our streetlights, because it's the only source of light in the community. So it's actually just such a great validation for what we're doing.
And obviously then you have other issues for traditional streetlights, things like copper theft. I see it here in Seville because there's a car charger about 500 meters from where I'm sitting right now, and the 2 cables for DC fast charging have been snipped off it. Is that an issue in the US for, we're not talking car chargers now, we're talking streetlights, but obviously streetlights have copper cables going to them as well.
It is. So municipalities have one of their biggest line items in general is maintaining or paying for streetlights. And 2, a growing number of municipalities are having serious issues with copper theft. And it's literally, sounds like doing the same thing where you are on the DC fast chargers. People go in, literally pull up a pickup truck. It seems crazy to me, but literally just snip, tie the wires off, and just pull all of the wires out and just drive away. And so it is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. And you're right, our lights don't have that because they have no wires. They're not connected to the grid. They're also, maybe not makes the best sense in this context, but they're also all low voltage DC. So not for thieves, but for people who are working on the lights, you can't electrocute yourself either working on them. But they're 30 feet in the air, not at ground level where people are stealing anything.
And let's talk about some of the costs that municipalities have to deal with. Theft and repairs is obviously one. Are there other significant costs? Energy would be another one, obviously, which, again, with yours isn't an issue. But what are other costs that municipalities might have to deal with that they wouldn't had they used Streetleaf?
Yeah, so it's 2 items. So one you touched on is maintenance. So there's 2 scenarios the way most municipalities handle street lighting. The first one is the city owns all their own streetlights. They're maintaining them. They're paying for the power, and they're dealing with vendors, suppliers, handling a whole fleet of 20, 30, 50,000, 100,000 streetlights. So the cost to them is literally just honestly maintaining something and having the crews and the overhead and handling that. The other scenario is, and sorry, I know I'm jumping around, but that's where copper theft becomes a big issue. The second scenario is a local utility company will actually lease street lighting to a municipality. So we're seeing that more and more in the US, where it's actually a utility who owns the streetlights and is charging the municipality not only for electricity, that's actually a really small percentage of the monthly bill. It's more of amortizing the cost of the streetlights over a long period, and the utility is the one who controls them. So it's just a big bill for the city, and they don't have any control. So like the two scenarios are, they either have all the control and it's really costly, they outsource that control, but I'm sure other guests have talked about this as well. It's throughout the world, not just the United States, but utility rates are skyrocketing across the board for a variety of reasons. So utility rates are going much higher than inflation. So cities can control streetlights and just be a burden. They can give it outsourced to a utility, but costs are going up crazy with them. Or now the third option would be do Streetleaf, and we would come in. There wouldn't be that energy cost. We could just sell you lights straight up. Or if you want us to do all the maintenance and something that you would be paying a utility, we could do that too. But we're not burdened by all of the other factors that are driving utility rates higher.
And I know that most traditional streetlights are not smart. They're not connected. They're connected to the electricity grid, but they're not talking back to base, as it were. Some of the more modern ones typically are now, but that's pretty new. And I would say, I don't know what the install base of those would be versus traditional. But for municipalities who don't have, or who only have some smart streetlights, they probably have someone hired to go out in a truck and see which lights are working and which ones are not, and make a note of the ones which aren't, and then do a truck roll the following day to do a repair, or some kind of process like that. Or maybe they have a QR code on the street light, so if it goes out, people can take a picture of it or whatever and report it back. Yours, I'm guessing, because you've said you're monitoring them, you know when a street light fails or is about to fail, so you're not burdened, or your customers are not burdened with that cost. Is that fair?
It is fair. And to add some more context to what you're describing, so I'll speak specifically for Florida, but I've seen similar laws in other states in the US, is the utility companies in the state of Florida, there's a couple other like deadlines they have in this just Florida legislation that allows them to push off repairing a streetlight for up to a year without canceling. Yeah, without having any effect to their contracts or their payment terms for that city or that HOA to pay for a streetlight. So that's crazy. So we actually started monitoring our streetlights for all the reasons you described about proactive maintenance, having just like our smart control aspect to it. I mentioned during hurricanes that, hey, if we think a hurricane or two last year where there's two back to back, we need to extend the battery life beyond 5 days. We could live make a dimming profile of the streetlights. So from midnight to 4 a.m. when the roads are less used, that light can dim, extend the battery life. But hey, if somebody's out pulling out of the driveway, walking their dog, there's a motion sensor that flicks that light back onto 100% if needed. And that can actually trigger the rest of the lights on the street too. Before we even got into all that, the reason we started monitoring the lights goes back to the origin story. So that first like local utility that was causing us issues in the original development project, when we first put out our first prototype, they sent two guys out in a lawn chair to look at the light. And they were hoping that there was issues, it didn't work, so they could throw mud against the wall or cause a big fuss that were getting into their business. Light stayed on the entire night. I'm sure those two guys went home like tired and cranky. But what that told us was we need to have the data to back up what we're doing. So as we get bigger, as we install these, as we say, hey, the utility takes a year, we take 8 days. In emergency, we can turn it around in 1 day or less. It's, okay, we need to have the data to back up what we're doing, showing our response time, showing the performance during storms. So that's also why we're monitoring it, just to have the performance data to validate what we're doing.
And what does that monitoring of the streetlights, is there any surprising information you get from it, or does it change anything operationally? You know, what have you learned from it, if anything?
It does a little bit. We're just looking for like performance relative to the other streetlights in the area. So, hey, like, why, if there's 100 in this community, why is this one panel absorbing less sunlight than the others? Like, we have minimum thresholds on like flags for maintenance, but it's also relative indicators for the other lights in the area. We've had a couple where like, hey, why is this one acting so strangely? Let's roll a truck. Sure enough, somebody planted a tree right next to the solar panel that wasn't in the original landscaping plan. Like little details like that we catch on to quickly. So we kind of know, hey, we've seen enough spontaneous trees appear that we can guess when something like that's going on. Another thing is you mentioned QR codes. So like even dumb streetlights that are not connected, don't have any kind of reporting data, they typically don't even have an identifier on the pole that allows somebody to even report what's going on. So we have all of our lights connected. We do also have a QR code with a unique identifier on every single pole that we put in the field so people can get directly in touch with our team. I will say that leads to some hilarious anecdotes as well. I don't know, like people will scan a QR code and complain about their neighbor's fence encroaching or somebody else violating HOA rules. And this isn't the community forum. This is just to see if there's a streetlight issue, but those messages are pretty funny too.
Is there anywhere where solar street lighting doesn't make sense yet? Maybe shading conditions, streets, densities, or other issues that, you know, I haven't thought about there?
Yeah, so the real thing of when it doesn't make sense, and the way we look at it, Streetleaf, is around cost. So you can make it work. It's just how much are you willing to pay for it, like anything. So we say like, hey, our lights work from Miami to Minnesota, but to light that same local small roadway in Miami versus Minnesota, you just need a larger panel and a larger battery to guarantee that 3 to 5 day battery backup. And that kind of erodes our value prop with our customers. Earlier, I was describing, hey, all the hardware we're putting on top of our aluminum pole with a light bulb on it, our solar panel, our battery, our smart control technology, that needs to be more cost effective than digging a hole in the earth, running wire and conduit and tying it into the grid. When you go into more kind of northern latitude climates, more extreme winter events, or even more dense urban areas where there's a lot of shading with tall buildings, you need a bigger panel, a bigger battery to have that reliability, which erodes the cost equation a little bit.
And what kind of project then is easiest to first fit for Streetlife? Would it be new developments, municipalities, disaster-prone areas, theft-prone areas, all of the above, none of the above?
So all of the above. Literally, there's streetlights. Now hopefully, Tom, you'll be thinking about street lighting and you'll realize, like driving through where you live, hey, who pays for these? Why does this one not match that one? This one's been out for 45 days. What the heck? But there's literally so many applications. We're still a growing company, so we try not to boil the ocean. So we're laser focused on new construction. That's where we find the biggest wins. And we're having some conversations about like retrofits, going into old areas, doing things like that. That's the next iteration of Streetleaf and what we're thinking. But right now, we're just trying to get as many solar streetlights out there as possible, which is primarily in new construction.
And what would you say tends to surprise customers most after an installation?
How easy it is as far as the installation. We talk about on our website, it takes 15 minutes. We have a little sped up video showing an install crew installing it in 15 minutes. But everybody rolls their eyes and says, okay, yeah, sure. But then we actually do it that quickly and we're in and out of a job site like in a blink of an eye. So actually how easy it is usually a surprise, but the ease usually comes in after the fact. And a lot of these construction projects, people probably don't always admit it, but like plans change halfway through in a residential setting. Maybe, hey, I thought all the driveways were going to be on this side of the street, but they're now on that side of the street. And with a normal street light, it's a huge effort You have to disconnect that light or the entire street from the grid, go redig, bore under a roadway, put in a new street light. It's like a couple months project, really costly, versus our stuff, 15 minutes out of the ground, 15 minutes across the street, you're done. So that's really like where a lot of our customers see the ease, not only at the beginning, but throughout the project.
I mean, 15 minutes sounds incredible. You must have diggers ready to go to dig the hole, concrete ready to pour for the foundation. Walk me through what's involved in an actual installation that you can get it done that fast.
Yeah, so we actually primarily hand dig the majority of our holes too. So that is included in the 15-minute countdown. So we'll hand dig, or if we have like soft enough soils, we'll use it's called like a hydrovac. You literally are digging a hole with a water kind of jet pump. The reason we do that is so we don't damage any underground. We're just the streetlight guys. We don't need to take out a main water line or something like that. And then instead of concrete, we like to use what's called like a quick setting foam. So that's like really the secret sauce in 15 minutes is this foam will set within that period versus concrete takes 24 hours plus to fully set. That's kind of a secret sauce that we use to make sure we're moving that quickly.
And what was harder than expected in making streetlights commercially reliable?
Harder than expected, and I think we're getting a little over that hump at first, is one, getting people to think about streetlights at all. In fact, I'm on your podcast, shows that we're succeeding at that a little bit. But that was a huge lift the first couple of years we're doing this. It's just getting people to take a second and actually think about it. As far as the actual implementation side, it's as we've gone from a smaller company to actually throwing in hundreds of streetlights a week, it's just making sure our supply chain is really consistent. We have our logistics really just a fine-tuned machine. Even with all of this supply chain and tariff uncertainty that's been happening over the couple of years, I actually view everything that's been happening as, I don't know, it's really helped us mature as a company quickly. We've had to make really hard decisions early in our tenure. And so it's made us become a lot more logistically precise and clean and well-oiled machine a lot faster than we probably would have because we just had to.
And you mentioned that they are dark sky certified, the lights, and turtle safe. Do your customers care? Is that something that people ask for? Why did you do that?
Yeah, so two things. So dark sky and turtle safe, not to be the lighting nerd, are technically two different things, but we do have both options. So all of our lights out of the box are dark sky. There's a couple different key things you need to meet, but the two main ones are, it's called full cutoff, which means all of the light goes down. It's not going above the fixture in any way. And then it's also around color temperature. So the way you measure color temperature and lighting is on a Kelvin scale. So 5,000 is really white light. 3,000, which you need to be below 3,000 Kelvin to be dark sky certified, is a little bit more of an orangey yellowish hue. That's just better not only for light pollution, but for just human beings living in artificial light environments in general. So that's out of the box what we have. Turtle light is an even lower, kind of a little bit more complicated setting, but basically is just minimizing the light wavelengths so breeding sea turtles don't get impacted and walk towards the light versus walking back towards the moon or the sun in the morning to make it back to the sea.
Right. Do people care? Is this something that they ask for?
That's a great question because clearly I went on a ramble and I was the only one who cared. But so short answer, people normally don't care unless they become lighting nerds like I am. But municipalities care. So we saw the writing on the wall a couple of years ago that everybody's going to start going towards dark sky compliant. So we're like, hey, we'll just get ahead of it and make all of our lights out of the box more dark sky compliant, which makes meeting local lighting requirements and spacing the streetlights a little bit more difficult at first. So it also made us get fine-tuned to make sure we're being as efficient as possible when we committed early to going dark sky.
Okay. And what would need to change then for off-grid solar street lighting to become the norm rather than more novel as it is today?
So one, just Streetleaf becoming more and more prevalent throughout not only new development, but key cities in the United States. So we really view like Streetleaf is going to become like the standard in not only solar street lighting, but street lighting in general. As far as a norm, I heard a term that somebody used, and I use it all the time myself now, like urban clutter. There's like signs and stop signs, and not only street lights, but stoplights and kind of everything else that like fades in the background. Right now, a solar panel on top of a street light is like captivating, which we enjoy. We want people to be thinking about our product. But as it becomes more and more prevalent, it'll just be part of everyday life. So it literally is just volume and getting our name out there and getting the products in the ground. And I am confident that not even slowly, quickly, solar street lighting will become like just the standard street light that people assume they're going to get.
And how much of a role should policy play in making it the norm?
At the end of the day, just view the market for street lighting, whatever it is going to dictate it. Policy will help a little bit, but I mean, we've made it work for our customers based on cost and performance. At the end of the day, the superior product's going to win, whether with policy help or not. So that's the way we view life, is we need to have not only the best solar street light, but the best street light on the market, and the rest will sort itself out.
I want to do a quick lightning round of questions now, if you're up for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
One sentence answers. So, cheaper power or more reliable power?
Reliable.
All right.
Oh, one sentence, not one word.
That's okay. That's okay. What should cities stop doing tomorrow?
Overspending on infrastructure.
What problem gets ignored most often?
The complaint from the end user, which in this case is the individual homeowner or the resident in a community.
What matters more, cost or uptime?
Uptime.
Where does solar lighting still struggle?
Struggles on cost. So you said one sentence, but in some parts of the United States, the cost is great, and others it's not so great. So cost is the key driver.
All right. And what belief about streetlights is just wrong?
That they need to take a year to fix.
Okay, great. Now a left field question for you, and you can take more than one sentence on this one. If you could have any person or character, alive or dead, real or fictional, as a champion for solar streetlights, who would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'm a big fan of Tony Fidel. I always say his last name wrong. I've never met him.
Tony Fidel, yeah.
Yeah, he is such a champion of the product first mentality. Obviously, like was key in delivering the first iPhone. Then he did the Nest thermostat, and Nest is something I really relate with at what we're doing at Streetleaf. Is it's taking something mundane that nobody's ever thought about, that the incumbents have gone fat and happy with and haven't updated, and just brought it to modern day and made it better. So I think somebody like that would be a great champion for Streetleaf.
Brilliant answer. I love it. Okay, we're coming towards the end of the podcast now, Liam. Is there any question that I didn't ask that you wish I did, or any aspect of this we haven't touched on that you think it's important for people to think about?
I mean, we covered the whole basis. Like at the end of the day, it's a fairly simple product. We try to keep it very straightforward. So I think overall you covered all the bases.
And if people would like to know more about yourself or any of the things we discussed on the podcast today, Liam, where would you have me direct them?
So they should just go check out streetleaf.com. That has our latest products, has everybody on the team info. And if you want to reach out to me, they can find me on LinkedIn as well.
All right. Liam, that's been fascinating. Thanks a million for coming on the podcast today.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.